Hello, testing. Hello. All right. Quando é Isha Ine. Welcome, welcome. Hi, welcome. We're about to start. I'm gonna authorize people to enter here in our room. Hello, hello everyone. Hi there. So welcome travelers. Today we're gonna celebrate and talk together about the day out of time. I'm gonna share my screen with you. And then we're gonna talk a little bit what it means to be the day out of time today. And first, I would like to thank you all, to thank you to be here today. And well, I'm really curious to know what you know about the day out of time, if you heard about that already. So if yes, I would like to comment in our chat. Um, and then of course, I'm gonna explain a little bit more about it, and then we can be together understanding what it means and how we can celebrate that together. But then to start, we have a little time traveler together with Carol. We're gonna start synchronizing together to be everyone in the same energy, to be in the same moment of time, to talk about that, um, to be connected in this present moment. In general, when we listen something, we heard something about time, the first thing we think about is, well, clocks, our watch and our wrists, and we start to imagine that time is this mechanical perspective we have about the passing of the days, or the way we count the months in the calendar. But then today I want to present you different ways to connect with time, to understand our connection with time, starting with a different clock we can have, or a different way to perceive the time passing. We're going to synchronize with one of the first ways of perceiving the time passing, which is a drum. We're going to synchronize with this kind of clock. I'm going to invite you to just be for some seconds while we synchronize, listening the sound of the drum, and to also connecting with the drum that all of us have inside of our bodies, our hearts. Then we're gonna start to talk together. Ekonde Ishaine. Oh, we're gonna start understanding that with this moment, with this vibration. I know that uh, the drum plays different in the different sounds and in the computer, but we're gonna trust in this frequency that I just synchronized together to all of us. And then I'm gonna share here my screen. Then we can talk a little bit about this day out of time. So, or let me see if I still can see you. Yes, I can. I'm gonna ask you if you can see my screen now. Yes, you can tell me in our chat. Yes. All right. So, as I said, today is the day out of time, and what it means to that. In the natural cycles of our planet, we have 13 different cycles or moons, or as we know, months of 28 days each. And if we put this all together, we have a year of 364 days. But we know that our year have 365 days. This day that is called the day out of time is this moment of the year that is not part of the year that is finishing right now, and also is not part of the year that is going to start tomorrow. Different cultures and different tribes, original people around the world had this concept to try to connect with the natural cycles of our planet, to the natural time of the planet, and to understand this connection as a way of synchronize with the planet, with ourselves. But then we know that this is not the perspective we follow in history. We started to have around. We have a different calendar, a calendar that is kind of messy if we decided to compare with this perfect and balanced 30 moons, 28 days calendar. Because in this perspective, we were talking about uh, a year that is like this revolution around the sun, this moment that we have this 13 different cycles of our moon spinning around the earth, and then completing this 1 year. And in this 1 year, we have this harmonic and balanced calendar that different ancestrals and different tribes and different cultures had in the past, to understand that if we start to harmonize with this connection between the relationship between the planet and the moon, we can start to have this perfect connection with understanding of our time. What I think is really beautiful of this perspective, and I am a person that is really passionate about time, and then I started to study how different cultures around the world are connected with these different perspectives. And this is one of the most interesting perspectives, because when we say that today is July 25th, well, this is not any different than to say that today is October 12th or is January 3rd. And it's basically another day, a day that the sun rises in the sky, and then we're gonna work, and then that's it, and then we're gonna come back home. But with this perspective, what I think is something beautiful to start to pay attention is that first, we see that the months has some different names when we are talking about our common calendar. And then each of these months or moons, they have different meanings and different ways that we can connect with ourselves and with the natural cycles of the planet. And I can talk more about that later. But then basically, when we are talking about the day out of time, we are talking about this natural cycle, this natural time. When we understand that 1 year is one solar revolution with these 13 moons of 28 days. And this is, as we can say that this is a calendar, but this is also a way to understand what is changing around us, what is changing around the planet, what is changing around our lives, around society. Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, had this famous quote that says that time is the measure of change. Time is the measure of movement, of change, of how we perceive change around us. If we are not paying attention in our time, maybe we are not paying attention in what is changing around us. And when we start to pay attention in what is happening through history, well, we can say that the history is being told by the perspective of the winners of the wars, of the colonizations and different processes. But we had different histories in different moments of the history. And in these different timelines and in these different history paths, we had different connections with time, we had different connections with nature. Perhaps different perspectives or different worldviews than the one we are living right now. And today we are living in this society that has a different calendar and a different way to connect between each other. We know that most of the way we think about time is about, well, I need to wake up that time, I need to start to work at that time, I need to do this thing to try to synchronize with each other's time by my clock, by my and by these different perspectives, we understand culturally that this is the only connection we can have with time. But what I can tell you here is that, well, in different moments of history, from our ancestors in Africa and the Egyptian and the Dogon tribes, and then in the Oriental, by this Oriental path, the society started to grow until the original people in the Central America, to the actual tribes, indigenous tribes that are still there. We have completely different perspectives of time. We are, as people that connect with time by this linear perspective from past to present and then future, we are always running against time and trying to find, to connect with this next thing. Can be a next trend, can be the next subject, the next song, the next technology we need to learn how to use. But then this is not the only connection with time we can have. Between all these different cultures, amongst all these different people I mentioned, for them time was something circular and not something linear. Something that we could connect with these different times, with these different realities, different dimensions, by connecting with the moment we are living right now, connecting with the present. And I would like to say that if this calendar I showed you is something different, well, the calendar we are following at this moment, it is also a convention. It is also something that was created by someone. It is something that in some moment of history was politically created in our society. Our calendar is called the Gregorian calendar. And this name is because of the Gregory, the Pope, that understood politically all the different agreements that were necessary in society at that time. So if we try to understand why our calendar is like it is, our calendar has 12 months. But then we see that in the middle of these months, we have, for example, July. July is a month that, like the month we are now, is the month that was created to homage the Caesar Julius, and in this process, they decided that would be a month that needed to be um, with more days than the others to because of this homage. But then we had also another emperor, Augustus, and then he also needed to receive the same homage, and then we created August. But then because of this, we see that when we start to talk about September, September in Latin has the origin of seven, or sete, that it is a word that means like 7 in September. In October, we have this root of 8, octo, of October, that is 8, but then it's not the 8th month, it's the 10th month. And then in November, we have the nove, that is also nueve, or 9, but then it's not the 9th month, it's the 11th month. And then in December, the same, we have the dec, or 10, or des in the beginning, but then it's the 12th month. And then we have this different structure of months that some of them have 30 days, some of them have 30 one. We have the 1 month with 28, but then sometimes it's 29. And then this makes this kind of mess in our minds around what day is today. And then we have this this thought, this feeling that we are always running against time, because we are always trying to achieve, to reach the next month, and the next paycheck, and the next responsibilities we need to understand and to assume. But then I would like to tell you that even the word calendar is a word that comes from the Roman Empire, that the original meaning was the book of the book of payment checks. So was that book that all the managers from the empire would go to the markets and then ask to all the different commerciants to pay the monthly taxes. And then this book was the book of taxes, basically. And then because of that, the calendar was the way to connect with all the taxes we need to pay every month. And then until today, we can say that it is the same, because we have this connection with, oh my God, today is the payday, and then, oh fuck, in the day after that, we already don't have money at all because we paid all our bills. And then we start to wait the beginning of all of this again. But then we have these different perspectives of time. That calendar I showed you, the 13 moon calendar, it is a different way to understand this connection. We have many many others different calendars. This one, for example, is one that I really like, that tells us that, well, we are looking to a really brief moment of history. We are talking about this year 2020 as the whole story of our life as humanity, but only about humanity we can say that we are ignoring at least 10,000 years of history that happened before of this 2020 2020 months. Can you see my slides? Okay. Let me share with you. Okay, someone told here on the chat that was not seeing, so I was showing, well, the 13 moons in the calendar, this perfect calendar I mentioned, with 28 days in 13 moons. And then I was mentioning that in these different histories, we have different perspectives of history from different people and different original people and different tribes and different empires that happened until now. And then I was talking about the Gregorian calendar as something that was the book of taxes, in the way that we were connecting basically with this idea that until today we have the time is money, the time is something connected with a currency, and it's not. You can make more money in the next month, but you can never make an extra time to your life. You cannot invest your time to make more time back. So about this perspective, time should not be considered as a currency or as money. Time should be considered as something more valuable and more important than money in this sense. And only to pay attention in this 10,000 years of history we are ignoring, we can see that how come we are trying to foresee something for our future if we didn't understand yet what we what we lived until now, what we know until now, what our ancestors were living until now, and how we can make through this history not a cycle that is repeating itself with the same mistakes, but we can learn from this past to overcome these mistakes and try to find to reach our next level as humanity. But by the way, this calendar I was showing now is a calendar made from Portugues. They are a YouTube channel from Germany, and they have really nice videos explaining about time as well. I'm gonna send to you by the meetup group later. And then I would like to ask you, how do you connect? How do you connect with these concepts around time? Did you see time, or did you think at all about time in another moment before of this session? If you have something to share about your connection with time, I would love to know as well. If you want, or to talk here, or to talk in our chat. If you like, this is the first time you stop to think about time, or to think about your relationship with time. I would like to tell you that I am studying time for the last 5 years, and well, I started to study communications, and in the middle of this process, studying different changes and how societies started to face different changes, I understood that our connection with time, or the way we see and perceive time around us, is something that completely changes our reality. So we have different societies that are really future oriented. So we are always trying to reach the next level, the next technology, the next path as a market, as a society, as a nation. And this also makes us feel really anxious about it, about our reality, about our life, about the pace of our routine. Well, I come from Brazil, and in Brazil we are not only in the same time zone of the United States, but we are really inspired in a bad way by the same mood. So I come from a city called Belém, but I lived for a while in São Paulo. And São Paulo is basically the same fast-paced rhythm of routine that everyone is trying to connect with work and go to the next thing. But then we live this space of society that we are always like tense to try to understand what is going to come next. And then we know that there are people also really connected, like past oriented, that are more connected by memories, connected by the feelings of what they did, what they lived, what they experienced. But through these different connections, we can also understand that we don't need to be only one of these perspectives of time. We can flow between them. We can try to understand time as something that, like, I put this image here because I would like to show you this object that is called a torus. And this object called Torus is the perfect way to understand how these different cultures perceives time. It is something circular, like these different rings. And imagine that each of these different rings, they are different timelines of your life, different pasts, different futures that you can achieve. But then you don't know which one to choose, which one you would like to live, which one is better than the other. Well, you don't need to choose. Most of these different cultures, they understood time as this radial, circular shape, as this dimension that we can understand these different timelines, these different pasts that we came from, that can lead us to different futures. But we have only one way to achieve and to navigate through these different pasts and futures, which is the center. That is the only place that all of them are connected, which is the present. And by the present, we can navigate and flow through different memories and pasts to different futures. But we are not spinning around the same story, repeating ourselves at all. Probably you already saw that image of that snake biting biting itself and doing like that 8 shape. We call that Ouroboros. And Ouroboros is this concept of infinite, and then we think about as something that is repeating itself, but it's not at all. If we understand that this 8 shape, and you can see an 8 here because we have like this shape really similar to the drawing I'm saying, but now we are not seeing as a drawing in 2 dimensions. We are seeing something like 3D in my hand. And as this 3D perspective, we understand that we are not repeating ourselves in the same path, but we are exploring these different timelines and different perspectives of time. We can understand that through one past, I can understand something about myself. I can put action in the present. I can achieve a different future that is going to bring a new meaning for something. I can reconnect about another past I had, and by the present, through the present, I can achieve and reach and connect again with another future. And then basically life is this cycle of different learnings that we can connect with these different ways of perceived time. And I'm not talking only about this can be perceived as something really spiritual, or to talk about past lives or something. No, but I'm talking about past experiences we had in this life. And then sometimes we are just repeating the same mistakes or the same paths, and we are not paying attention of how well, if we look back, we can understand the same pace or the same routine we are repeating, and then understand how through the present we can address that and change that. But then we can think about this connection with time by completely different perspectives. We can talk about our lives in days, in months. We can talk about years, and then we can start to talk that, well, I started to connect with time in the last decade, and then we go through this bigger scales like centuries and millenniums, and we can talk about epochs that are when we start to understand these cultural social changes happening around. We can say that we have that epoch that happened the war, we had that epoch that we started to develop the internet, and then we had that epoch. And then by this concept, we are talking about social and cultural changes. But then we had this bigger scale called eras. And in general, when we're talking about eras, we are talking about, well, the years of the planet. We are talking about geological movements, the geological change happening around the planet. We can talking about the ice age. We can talk about the dinosaurs age. We can talk about these different moments that were really big. If we start to compare with our timeline here, that is measured by years, and then we still have a bigger scale, which at least in this presentation is going to be the biggest, that is this eons. And in eons, we are talking about this cosmological perspective, when we are talking about not only about our planet, but about our solar system, about our galaxy, about the cosmos itself, about the universe in general. And for me, it's really interesting to think that, well, we are talking about some changes that we are facing right now as a planet, but this is only a glimpse between all these different scales, from the cosmos until what we are facing daily here in the society. I really like how the Hindu culture connects with time. They understand Shiva as this representation at time, and is represented by this image of Shiva dancing over a river. And then it's like this image in my hand, or the image in the screen. Is Shiva dancing over a river. And for me, it's poetically really beautiful to think about time as this entity, this god/goddess dancing in a cosmic river. But then we can understand that there isn't only one Shiva or only one river. We all are these different entities, these different Shivas dancing in our own cosmic rivers. Because we talked a lot in the beginning about the mechanical clock and the mechanical time, but all of us have this different subjective time, this psychological time, this subjective time, that is the way that only you connect with your time. And everyone probably had this experience already. Each of us had this moment that, for example, you were reading a book and then you were really connected with the story. And then suddenly you looked to your clock and said, oh shit, it's already past midnight. And then I not even noticed that was more than an hour that I was reading. And then for me, it was just 5 minutes. Or the opposite. You were talking with someone and for you was like a lot of time, like you spent a whole day together talking about a lot of different things on your mind. But then you see in the clock and it was basically 1 hour only. And then this is how we are creating our own flow on time. Then we are connecting with our own experience in time. I told here about, I mentioned different cultures. And for me, it's really interesting, this perspective of how we can synchronize with time. I'm not going to talk deeply about this perspective today, but I connected with this concept of the day out of time by the Mayan culture. It's one of the cultures I started to study to understand different perspectives of time. So I started to study how the Egyptians were were understanding time, how the Dogon tribes in Africa, how the Hindu perspective understands time. In the Mayan culture, they were not the first to create this perspective or to start to talk about that. But what is really interesting is that they were really good navigators of this perspective. They were really good to create the map, to create the way of understanding how we can be the owners of our own time. This image in our screen is called Hunabku. And Hunabku, for the Mayan culture, is the name of the sun in the center of our galaxy. So it's the galactic center, of the place we are at this moment, of this cosmos. Is like our address in the cosmos. And this sun, if you pay attention, well, we have here an image of something spinning in the middle, like some flames or solar flares going up to the different directions. And we have these 4 different arms in the image. And we can say that this is just a mandala or something like a sign that they created to talk about a god. But then they had a really beautiful and precise representation of our galaxy. If we'll go to the NASA website, well, we don't have a picture of our galaxy because we are in the middle of it. To have a picture of our galaxy probably would be like this, would be like a selfie because we are in the middle of it. But then this is the way NASA represents our galaxy in their website. It is basically, we are spinning in this galaxy that there are also these different arms around, and we are in the we are really far from the center, but we are like in one of these arms. I put here an image to show how far we are from the galactic center. And then a lot needs to happen in this spiral until the energy of this sun in the center of our galaxy to reach us. Precisely, the Mayan culture mapped that to receive these frequencies, these solar flares coming from the center of our galaxy, we need to wait like for a cycle of 5,000, almost 5,200 years. So every 2,000 years, we are being hit by a different, like a new big wave of this big, really big sun in the center of our galaxy. Why this is important? Well, because we are here in this really far neighborhood of our galaxy, in this planet called Earth. And in this on this planet, this particular culture started to understand how these cycles of the universe that I am mentioning can also in some way be teaching us something about also the cycles we are living as a planet, as a society, as different nations, as political change, as environmental change, and as ecological change. This can sound this can sound weird, I know, but then for me, this is really similar with what we learn in this movie that I really like, that is Arrival. I don't know if you watched this movie, but it is a movie in which this group of military guys are trying to understand the message from these aliens that arrived in our planet. And then the only person that can hold a solution is this linguist that maybe can have the key to understand past, present, and future in a completely different way. And with that, we start to understand that, this I forgot to translate, but I'm gonna tell you. That to understand this different temporal consciousness, we need to have also new codes. We have to have new languages, to have new ways to understand time. And then I really like this book. There is a book called Your Brain is a Time Machine from this neuroscientist called Dean Bonomano. And he has, by the way, a really nice TED talk about it, that he says that, yes, we are already time travelers because our brains are connecting with time in different ways. When you are thinking of some memories of your past, we are not remembering about these memories only. You are living it again. You are in the present in all these memories, in all these feelings. So your brain is like you are traveling together with your brain to that time. And the same with different futures. When we start to imagine a potential future, we are also creating this scenario because we are traveling to this place in time and helping to creating this different perspective. I also really like this TED Talk with the linguist Lena Borodsky, and she talks about how our language shapes the way we think. And then I'm gonna give you one of the examples she talks about that. She says that she also studies different cultures and different original people around the world or in different tribes. And then she mentioned on this TED Talk that for some people, for example, if I show you a blue color of something and a green color, you're gonna be able to say, okay, this is blue and this is green, because we have the words, the language to help us to understand that blue is a reality and green is another reality. But then for different people in different cultures that doesn't have both words, they have, for example, only blue. If you show blue, they are gonna say, okay, this is blue. And if you show green, they are gonna say, yeah, this is also blue. It's the same color. Yeah, but there isn't as like a slightly difference between these two colors, and they probably are gonna say, no, this is basically blue. For us, this can be weird, but for most of us, the same happens with snow, for example. Well, we have only one word to talk about snow, but we know that people that lives closer to areas with snow, they have like different words to describe a more wet snow, a more flaky snow, and different kinds of snow. And then because of that, they approach reality in a different way. The same is valid to our relationship with time. Since we have only the words of present, past, future, this is the only thing we understand as time. For the Mayan culture, they had this really beautiful and complex system that they created also 3 words or 3 notations to talk about it, which is really simple. They have this dot to talk about 1, this dash to talk about 5, and this shell, this image of something like a shell to symbolize 0. With only these 3 symbols, they were able to describe and to calculate all these great cycles of 5,200 years I was mentioning. And with that, they created this beautiful calendar. This is an image of the book Mayan Factor, that they started to understand these 13 cycles. Here we can count 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the dash is 5, and then dash and a dot is 6, 7, 8, 9, 2 dashes is 10, until 13, and then we start a new cycle because, like as I said, we have these 13 months, and then we're gonna start another cycle. But this is also a fractal recipe, because we can talk about months, we can talk about years, we can talk about these great years of the cosmos, and then they use the same system to talk about our daily life, but also to talk about the cosmic perspective. This can look like a different calendar, but there is also a really different calendar or perspective about this relationship with time. They had this other perspective that for them is a harmonic module to understand time. It is the same counting I just showed you, but here is vertical. So it comes from 1, 2, 3, from up to down. And then in the 13 starts again. But then we have, in this counting here, we are understanding almost like these pulses of cycles that are happening around the galaxy. And with these pulses, we understand that we come from this lower frequency that goes up and higher and higher and higher until the highest, and then starts again. And then we repeat these different cycles. And in these different cycles, we can understand, as I told you in the beginning, then that when we are talking about days or months, we are facing, like, every day is a different day. We don't have the same patterns or the same routines, because every day there's a different frequency of that day. I told you that in this calendar with 13 moons in 28 days, this calendar ended yesterday in the July 24th, and the new calendar of 13 moons, 28 days is going to start tomorrow. Today is the day out of time. So we are in this moment to celebrate, to try to understand, to connect with all these different frequencies, and to also not only as the Mayan culture, but as our society, to understand what is changing around our planet at this moment, and in our society and in our lives as well. And when we talk about all of these different perspectives from eras to days, we can say that we are trying to perceive different connections with our time. We are trying to perceive not only the tangible perspectives of time until now, like the hours we have in our day, but also the intangible, how we are feeling every day, how we are facing the challenges we are having in our planet right now, how we are struggling, we are being able to reach other people, we are being able to deal with our own questions at this moment. This sounds really intangible, but is also something that can help us to reconnect with time in a different way. I have this project called Torus, just like the artifact I showed you. And then in Torus, we study these different connections that people have with time. So we are called a time lab. We are in different projects with different institutions around the world, from academic institutions like the Time Machine in Europe, that they are a group of different universities, institutions, museums that are trying to understand how history changed our perspective of time until now and how we can connect with the next generations in Europe, but also different projects around the Mayan culture, the original tribes in the native tribes in the Amazon rainforest region, and in different places around the world. And I really believe that we don't have only one perspective, or a perspective that is better than the others or is the truth. We have different perspectives to connect, to find our own connection with time. And this connection can be really simple, as like we can go from the present moment, the moment that we are living now, until this really big perspective of talking about ancestrals and temporality, and about all these different subjects we talk on Torus that I'm not gonna mention all of them now. And then we have this today we are starting this new way to understand also how we can connect with time. We can be just a traveler that want to understand, to connect with others, to understand this connection, this perception of time. I have this community around study time in Brazil, that most of the people are studying time and connecting with each other every week to study different perspectives of time. So every week we are together, we are receiving someone, we are talking about one of these different perspectives. But this is basically a different way to understand and to connect with time. We have also companies that don't want to be just a traveler in this perspective. They want to navigate and to understand how they can change their mindset around that. With these companies, we have this project. I have this project called Navigator on Torus, that we help these different companies to connect with the zeitgeist, connect with what is happening in social changes, cultural changes, economical changes, political changes, technological changes around the world right now, and how they can navigate, how they can face all these different movements. But then this is also something like, it is a project really connected with businesses around the world. And I decided that would be, I believe that it's really important also to have this space of exploration, of investigation, to share something, to share things like we are talking today, that help us to go through our own journey. And in this sector of the chronomancer is a word of that person that is trying to use time in their favor, to trying to understand these patterns, these cycles, and to use that in your favor, to use this knowledge that when we start to understand these different cycles repeating, we can, well, have more information about our days, and to understand how we can have also better decisions, and how we can shape our worldview, our reality in different ways. So in this place, we are more connected with people, and the people that wants to also explore these different subjects together with Torus. But then we have also projects of these guardians, these timekeepers, that are different companies that are creating projects together with us. For example, when Torus is co-creating a project with this group of specialists, or this another laboratory that is studying different subjects, it is a way to use all this knowledge I'm sharing here and these different methodologies to leave a mark and to change in different ways how people are connecting with time. So we have these different levels that you can be, well, just a traveler connecting with time, or a company, or someone that wants to explore this deeper. How this sounds in a more tangible way. Well, we go through this basic level that is to understand the stage, to understand the set we are on this moment, which is to understand what is happening right now. Basically, when we are together in this community, together with this group of friends that are travelers connecting with what is happening right now, we are basically studying the zeitgeist. We are studying the time we are living right now. And weekly, we are connecting with these different changes by the perspective of time. For example, here on the top of this image, we have this image of this bridge with a lot of watches. And this is a city we discovered called Somaroy. And Somaroy is a city that, since they are really in the north of the globe, they have really long summers and really long nights during winter. And because of that, they started to say, what the hell, why we need to follow the same mechanical hours that everyone in the planet is following? If we have during summer a lot of days during the late night, and if I want to garden my house at the time, or to cook, or to learn something, why I cannot do it just because someone is telling me that this is 3 a.m. and it's time to do something else? And then they decided to abolish time in the city. And it is a city that in the entrance of the city, you have this bridge. And when someone entering the city, you need to abandon your watch to perceive and to live this experience in time in a different way. We have more political movements that are also making us to think about time in a different way. This image in the center, for example, is one of the protests happening in Chile last year. And on top, the guy is holding the Mapuche flag. The Mapuche is the original tribe that existed there before colonization processes, and they are trying to reconnect with their ancestrality at this moment. And for me, this is really beautiful, because they are trying to make a new time with the opportunities they have right now, to try to understand what are these different conventions we created as society that doesn't serve them anymore, and then to reconnect with this this perspective of understanding the area they are stepping at this moment as their original nation, their original place in the world. And with that, they are creating this new timeline in this political perspective. But we have this different cultural, artistical, technological perspectives about it. Well, Years and Years is a really famous series from HBO and BBC that helps us to understand that even the changes that are happening around the world right now, that we see as something that, oh, okay, this is going to happen with that immigrant group that doesn't have anything around about me, or with that other nation that is really not well developed until now, and I am safe to be here. Well, in this series, we see that in the next years, we are going to start to struggle and to face these questions and these issues in our families, in our group of friends, in our lives. And it's going to be important to start to address and to understand what is changing around the world right now. But then when we have this set, it's important to understand how I can navigate through this present. What are the different skill sets that I can use to do something different, to connect with the world in a different way, to do to break this way of thinking I had until now. about that, we are putting together also some different technical, different processes, these different skills, this different knowledge about how we can understand time and connect with time with by different ways. I really like, for example, the perspective created by the studies of the psychologist Felipe Zimbardo. He wrote this book called The Paradox of Time. And then he studies what I said in the beginning of how if you are a person future-oriented, your reality is going to be completely different, even with the same facts happening around, from someone that is more past oriented or someone more present oriented, and how we can connect and be flowing more between all of these different times. Or for example, Nancy Fraser is a critic thinker that wrote this really nice book called The Old is Dying and the New Cannot Be Born. And in this book, she explains in a really nice way the whole story about capitalism until now, how we are facing this moment that if you continue to try to save the actual system, or to try to shape in a different way the actual system, we are going to just postponing this moment that a new model, a new narrative is going to start. And we need a new narrative, we need a new model, and we need a new system that can be more fair with everyone, and not only with 1% of the population around the world at this moment. So this book is really nice. It's really small, but it is also a book, one of these books that we spend like a week in one page, and then we need another week to read the other page to try to absorb everything. But with that, with this skill set, we start to think also about why we are living on this timeline. And then we start to try to go deep in these different concepts to try to understand it, to connect with how I can, what the hell is happening, how I can do something different, why this is happening, what is this mindset about what is happening, and what are the other mindsets I can connect of this moment. And then we start to go deep in these different studies about time, about society and zeitgeist and history, with these different mindsets, just like the cultural perspectives I shared with you. And then I'm going to translate this one as well. We have this reset moment to understand that the future is not written yet. We still have time to change. And with that, we start to think about how these different cultures I mentioned, for example, can teach something to us, and how we can create new narratives for the present moment. It is possible to create new narratives. There are happening some around the world right now, and we don't know yet. And we are going to start to try to find how this relate with our lives or not. I am just like we are today in the day out of time, as I mentioned it, like around the world, a lot of different events of the day out of time are happening. We have also, we had like this whole week of really busy schedule around this subject that I closed the event yesterday. I did the last talk about that. And for me, it's really beautiful to see that we have this whole other perspectives happening right now. And just like the realities I mentioned, we can understand in which of them we want to connect. So in Torus, as I mentioned, we are trying to put together these different time sets for this next era, but also in connection with what we can do on this next hour, how we can face and approach all of this, not only in this cosmical or galactic or planetary perspective, but also in our individual lives, in our society, in our routines. And with that, I would like to invite you to breathe, because I know it is a lot. And to tell you that this can sound different to you, this can sound similar to what you want to connect, but we are living not only in an era of many changes happening around, but also in this change of an era. When we start to talk about this change of an era, we start to think about, okay, he's gonna start to talk about this perspective of the age of Aquarius and something like that. And yes, can be like that, can be something else, something about that, but can be something beyond that too. I really like this here. I really like this article called "The Age of Aquarius Beyond Astrology." I translated a quote to talk about that for you. That is this article that says, regardless of your belief, note that everything converges to the same point. I dare to say that what astrologers call the age of Aquarius is what economists call conscious capitalism, and Taoists have been talking for a long time. It is the era of knowledge for philosophers. It's the chaotic era for intellectuals. It's the digital era for technologists. Humanists call human revolution a new humanism, and the market stakeholders call crisis. When we look closely and without prejudice, we see that there is a convergence between everything and the certainty that we are living outdated models, that we need a transformation inside and outside urgently. And I think we can relate with that. Doesn't matter if the way someone's calling is age of Aquarius or next era or climate crisis, or it's like, yes, we need to face it. We need to do something about it. So to study time, it is also about to learn how we can navigate these changes together. And since today is a day of celebration, of gratitude of how we are facing our own lives in time until now, to continue this journey that starts tomorrow in the first day. So tomorrow it is the first day of the first moon of these 30 moons we are gonna be together. I would like to tell you about Zeitgeist, but I'm gonna show you this image that I really like. Zeitgeist is this concept of the is a German word created by the philosopher George Hegel. And George Hegel, he called the Zeitgeist the spirits of our time. Is this way we connect with history, with culture, with what is happening in this moment. But we also know that the zeitgeist is different every year and is different every decade. And what we understand as the status quo today, as this dominant time, was not what everyone was thinking of in the last decade, for example. We know that today we have all this residual, this time that doesn't make any sense for us anymore, that is expressed by different behaviors, languages, codes. Like, for example, we know that racism is something that it not fits in our time anymore. That misogynism, that transphobia, that homophobia, that a lot of different behaviors, codes, languages are not should not be in the present anymore. But then it's really easy to look to the past and say this doesn't make sense anymore. The hard thing is to look to the present and to say what we are doing as the established at this moment that doesn't make sense anymore. And with this concept and with this idea, we need to start to understand what is emerging in the other side. What are the narratives, the codes, the language, the behaviors that we should pay attention to try to connect with what is gonna make sense in the future. Probably we're gonna look as the group of people that today are the different ones, because everyone that is connected with the dominant time is gonna say that no, this is not how everyone understand the world. So maybe this is not the right approach. But life is about to face these different changes. This image here is how the Mayan culture were mapping, as I said, these really big cycles. They called this the Great Cycle. The Great Cycle was this cycle of 13, not moons, but 13 Bactuns. The Bactun was a word that they used to describe these cycles of many years, that 13 Bactuns together are the cycle of 5,200 years that I mentioned. And they were mapping these different changes happening around. I can tell you more about that in another occasion. But if you pay attention, this is a cycle that started in the 3,113 before Christ. And then is a cycle that completed this 5,000 years in 2012. Probably you heard about that in some moment. Was something that we started to talk about, this change of an era. And it is a moment that we are changing this archetype, this world's archetype. I put the image here again, because in 2012, what we started to listen around the world was like, this is going to be the end. This is going to be like, the newspapers started to say that, the Mayan predicted that the world is going to end it in 2012. And they never said about that. Since time is something circular, they were talking about a cycle. They were talking about the end of a cycle and the beginning of another one. And when we talk about the end, it's not the end of the world. It's the end of the single narrative, the single perspective of worldview that we are talking. And we know that the system around us today is the dominant system, is the status quo, is the mainstream. But then we are living also a society in transition. We don't have yet a new model, a new system or a new model, but we have a lot of different narratives emerging. And what is a narrative? A narrative is a story. A narrative is a different way to perceive things, to put your effort on it, to put your actions on it, to put your feelings on it, to connect your together with your community together, gathering together about this narrative, and to believe that you can make that reality works. When we understand that we are in a society in transition, this also means that we are in an economy in transition, that we're gonna struggle and face all these challenges around also this perspective. This also means that we are in an ecology in transition. We are understanding what it's gonna mean to be in a planet that is facing all these challenges around climate and around the environment at this moment. And I'm not gonna go through all of these different narratives, but I decided to bring here to this conversation that is not connected with the day out of time, but it is a reflection about time. These 13 narratives about change and about what we are mapping and looking for this next era. This is an ongoing work, an ongoing study that we are doing. Rodrigo is also being part of this project. He's leading this research. And we started to map these different narratives that are emerging around the world. Today, we see that when we are talking about this next era, we are talking about an era that is really questioner, is an era that it is like we are questioning everything around. We are trying to find different ways. We are trying to find different meanings, different paths. And we are also speculating a lot. We are imagining, we are wondering, we are trying to understand it is possible to do this in a different way. And it is an era with really feminine energy. And it is a moment that, well, if we look around the world and see which countries, which nations are facing better the coronavirus crisis, we see that most of them that have president or prime minister that is a woman are doing the best they can at this moment. And also we have these countries with the completely unbalanced energy in the other side, like this macho energy of, for example, Bolsonaro there in Brazil, or Trump in the United States, that are completely failing around that. We also understand that this next era is ecological. We need to start to study not only economy, but we need to study our planet, not only the way we're gonna manage the resources of our planet, which is the meaning of economy, but the planet itself, this deep ecology, and also how to regenerate our connection with the planet. We heard a lot about sustainability in the 2000s, and we deeply know that sustainability is not enough anymore. We need to not only sustain our lifestyles until today and our society systems, but we need to regenerate the way we are connected with our planet. So this regenerative perspective of the ecology is something really important. It is also this next area is also spiritualist, because it is a spiritual era. Everything that we are talking here cannot be understood, read, or perceived only by our rational minds. If we decide to only look to that as something that, okay, I'm going to study that, I'm going to do a university of that, I'm going to work around that, we are basically repeating the same patterns, the same cycles we lived until today. We need to question that. And because of that, we are also in this transversal era that we are finding connections between these completely different things. I can talk here about tribes, and I can talk here about economy, and I can talk here about technology, and you can see a pattern that is connecting all of them, because it is the only way to try to approach this really complex challenges we are facing right now. Because of that, we can say that this era, it needs also to face some other challenges. This next era needs to be decolonial. This means that we need to be pro indigenous lives, ancestral lives, the original people lives around the world. Well, in Brazil, we have 200 million people, and only 1% of these people around the country that is continental is still the original people from the tribes, from the forest, because most of these different peoples and these different cultures were extinct. And this is happening around the world. We have a lot of original culture, original knowledge that is vanished. We need to protect that. This also needs to be an era anti-racist, because you need to understand that if someone doesn't have the privilege, doesn't have the access to be discussing everything that we are talking here right now, well, we need to face the responsibility to bring this next era not only to ourselves but to everyone. So we need to be also pro Black lives, and we need to understand how we can be connected around these different issues and challenges, not only if we are in the place of being facing and struggling with these challenges, but also to understand that it is our responsibility to connect with that. Because of that, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be really chaotic until we find some common ground, because we have a lot of different perspectives. But can be also pluriversal. This word means that we don't need to find the single answer, this universal answer. We can understand that these different perspectives can collive. This next era needs to be pluriversal. And this doesn't mean at all that we need to abandon our lives and go to the forests and become a tribe. Not at all. We can use technology as we are using right now, but we need to understand how we can be an era not only techno capitalist, but techno-humanist, how we can use all this technology around the world to face the problems and issues we have in this planet right now. And because of that, we need to believe that this era is going to be abundant and not based on only on scarcity. It is a self-made prophecy. If I believe that we are living in a scarce society, I'm gonna make it real, and then I'm gonna start to compete with everyone, and then I'm gonna start to try to find a way of living that is gonna serve myself, but I'm not gonna be thinking in the others, and then it's gonna become true. But then if I truly believe that we are living in an abundant society, I'm gonna find a way to create this space as a community to connect with this different knowledge and learning, to share all of this together. And with that, we are gonna find together a way of abundance. I mentioned that on Torus, we are studying a lot of different perspectives of time. I don't want to mention and to go through all of them today. Today, it is the day out of time, and my intention here was to start to share a little bit of it, because I am a Brazilian guy that is living here in Amsterdam, and I was traveling a lot through these different projects and researches around the world, and coming back to a lot of different projects in Brazil. I was in the middle of the nature studying time. Before the pandemic started, I was in rivers, and I was in forest, and I was studying with a community that was outside of time. And then suddenly I am back here, and we are inside of our houses. We are not having events together as we were used to. But then I understood that just like just like I am from my home, connect with all this community that I still feel really close there in Brazil, well, we can start to do this also here. We don't need to wait the moment to, we're gonna have a big event to be all together. We can start to do the same. We are doing already there in Brazil, but also what we can do at this moment, which is to start. So to finish this presentation, I would like to remember that, yes, we can be the ancestors we would be proud of. We have all the story that we are not that proud, but then we are gonna be the ancestors of the next generations. And then we can be the ancestors we would be proud of. So from now on, let's feed a new past into this timeline to connect with time in a different way. Let's see ourselves not as a project or a study or a study group or someone interested in time only, but as a movement towards this new level of our connection with time. And for me, this is also a way to travel in time. We can time travel in search for this next step as a planet. And it is also a way to wake up as a cosmic consciousness, just like the Mayan culture were saying, but also how all these other cultures were talking about time. And then to finish, just like I mentioned a lot of different cultures here, I would like to do what we are doing in all these different countries. We are during the day out of time, we are connecting with the 7 directions prayer. That is one way of this ancestrals, these original tribes, were perceiving how we can look to the reality around in different ways. And it is like in general, when we start to think about even directions in the space, we think, okay, I have like this 4 directions, but then these original tribes, they had this prayer of 7 directions. And this prayer says like this: from the east, house of light, may wisdom dwell in us, so we may see all things in clarity. From the north, house of night, may wisdom ripe in us, so we may know all from within. From the west, house of transformation, may wisdom be transformed into right action, so we may do what must be done. From the south, house of the eternal sun, may right action reap the harvest, so we may enjoy the fruits of planetary being. From above, house of heaven, where star people and ancestors gather, may their blessings come to us now. From below, house of earth, may the heartbeat of her crystal core bless us with harmonies to end all war. And from the center, the galactic source, which is everywhere at once, may everything be known as the light of mutual love. And this is one of these original prayers of some nations, some tribes in the North American. And this is a prayer. This is a prayer that they started to use in different moments to remember that it's really easy to go through different places in these four directions, but it's really hard to remember that we also need to be connected with above, with the planet, and then that the place, the portal for all these connections is in the center of our bodies, is our hearts. And then in this day out of time, I would invite you to connect with your galactic portals in your hearts and to understand how you want to be connected with time. So that's it, guys. Thank you for listening, and I would love to know what you think about these perspectives of time, how you can connect with time in different ways. If someone wants to say a word about how was this experience for you, I would love to hear. And remember to breathe.
I'll start because I have seen many classes of Gustavo, and it's the first time I see his class in English. It's amazing. It's fun to see him sharing all this research that he's doing, and I'm beside him for a long time already. So it's really nice to see him making sense of it and sharing with you guys. So it was really nice. And happy new cycle to everyone.
Happy new cycle.
Hey, yeah, I just would like to thank you for these changes in perspectives, and yeah, it was it was really good because I'm working also on reclaiming, let's say, my own time frame and my own rhythm. So this arrived at the perfect moment. So thank you for this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also wanted to say thank you. It was really good, really eye-opening. I feel like it's now opened a dangerous world to a lot of Googling after this session. So thank you.
Yes, let's enter in this new frequency together. Whenever you want to ask me something about what I was saying, you can just text me, all of you. Carol sent a message here in our chat saying that our 3-year-old boy time traveler is having her time now, so probably she's not here. Let me see if app is here in the chat. And he also wrote here. Okay. How was for you to listen me finally talking in English about time?
It was amazing. I always listened in Portuguese. I never understood a thing. Of course, we talk also outside these sessions, so I would say that I have a bit of a already experience on this regard. But I think for me, what is the best thing about this, that I feel that I'm entering in some level of adulthood, and I have started to realize who I am as a human being, and also start to have that awareness that how I do want to use my time, not just go from payday to payday or weekend to weekend, but actually start to pay attention to use the time meaningfully to myself.
This is amazing. When we start to connect with this, with our own time, we understand that, well, it's not that we are out of the system. It's like the system is something else out of our time, that we don't need to only follow this other perspective, because, well, was a convention someone created, and we can create it new ones, we can create it our own. And to have to create these bubbles on time, how as we are doing today, for me is something really special. And I would like to thank you all to dedicate also to invest some of your time here together. Well, thank you, and let's celebrate this present moment in this day out of time. Enjoy your days.
Thank you so much.
Bye.